So today's topic is the 4 verb moods: indicative, imperative, interrogative, conditional, and subjunctive. And if you've never heard of moods before in grammar, don't worry, because it's not as strange or as difficult as it might sound. You've heard the word mood before, certainly. In real life, you often describe yourself as being in a good mood or a bad mood. In films and in literature, we talk about mood in terms of the atmosphere or emotion of a scene. So we can talk about how in the short story, there's a very ominous mood in the setting on the dark and stormy night or something like that. But in grammar, mood means something a little different. Mood has to do with verbs, and it's going to be one of these 5. Every sentence, every single one, falls into one of these 5 categories. Okay? And they are similar to the types of sentences, like you might recognize imperative and interrogative from sentence types like an imperative sentence or an interrogative sentence, if you know what those are. But it's a little bit different too. Here we go. The first and easiest 2 moods are indicative and interrogative. Indicative mood is used for factual statements, including questions or opinions that are facts. An interrogative mood is some sort of factual or realistic question. Okay? So interrogative automatically is just a question. That's easy. And indicative ones are like the 4 right here. I saw something annoying today. Fact. The lawyers have not said if they will appeal the decision. Fact. Purple is the new black. Now this one is more of an opinion, okay, but it's still generally factual in nature. It's still saying something that we believe to be a fact. Dr. Seuss is one of the best-selling poets of all time. Now, off the top of your head, you might not know if this is a fact or an opinion, but it's still generally factual. Make sense? So the majority of sentences that we say in conversation that end in a period are indicative. And that's the easiest one to spot. Imperative mood is the next easiest one to understand. These are demands, instructions, or non-question requests. And these 3 memes are all examples of imperative commands or imperative sentences. There is usually no subject in the sentence because the subject is implied. If I tell you to get to the chopper or get to the helicopter, notice how in this sentence right here, there's no subject. I didn't say you get to the chopper, I said just get to. In this case, I have skipped the subject, but it's still considered okay. Imperative commands imply the word you, or they imply the subject, and therefore they're not considered fragments. If I say brace yourself, then that's still considered a complete sentence. If I say come in please, I'm not specifying who's supposed to come in, but it's implied that you should. If I say don't touch that, that's not a fragment. Or shut the door, because it's a command. Turn on the computer please, or let's go to the other library. Now this one, by the way, is a command, and this one has a hidden subject. The contraction let's is short for let us. So technically there is a subject in here, it's just hiding. Okay? Now notice that these are not all exclamatory exclamation mark sentences. There's a misunderstanding out there that imperative sentences always have exclamation marks, and that's not true. They're going to have exclamation marks or periods. So commands are one mood or type of sentence. The most challenging kind to understand is conditional and its cousin, subjunctive mood. And they're a little tricky because they're similar. Conditional mood talks about what would happen in certain circumstances. So conditional is plausible or possible. If is often a word that gets used in conditional sentences, which is why I put it up here to remind you. You see if, it's probably either conditional or subjunctive. Check this first example out. I would only eat chocolate grasshoppers if I were starving. So here's the condition. If I were starving. If in that situation or scenario, then I would eat chocolate grasshoppers. Or here's another hypothetical situation or condition being set, but it doesn't have the word if. For $1 million, yeah, I would climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Makes sense? So it doesn't have to have the word if, but it's still a hypothetical, plausible situation, and it's still like, under this condition, maybe I would do this. It might work, so we could get to go after all. So this is plausible and a condition. If it works, we could get to go. Now, conditional often also has these would, could, or should, or might words. These hypothetical condition verbs. Would, could, or might, when may often come up. Now, subjunctive is similar, but the difference is that subjunctive talks about situations that are completely uncertain, completely unreal, hypothetical, or just a wish. If I were you, I wouldn't eat that. Now, this might look like conditional, but think about it. I'm not you. I'm never going to be you. It's impossible for me to become you. So this sentence is a hypothetical, unreal situation, so it's subjunctive. I wish I were taller. Now, unless you're about to have a growth spurt, you're probably not about to get taller. Most teens and adults are not going to get taller at this point. So, this is a wish that is unlikely, and therefore it's subjunctive. We would go to the pool if it were summer, but it's not. Okay? Or I'm just wishing right now. Therefore, it's subjunctive. Got it? So, notice that in these subjunctive sentences, I have a funny verb situation going on. Normally, I would say, I was something. The word were is reserved for you, like you were, or they were. Normally, I don't put I and were together, but subjunctive mood gets the verb were as opposed to was. So I would not want to say if I was you. That's considered bad grammar. Subjunctive mood usually gets the verb were instead of was. Now there's more I could say about this topic, but I'm just giving you a very concise crash course right now. So if you want to understand the verb were a little bit more in subjunctive, I highly encourage you to look up a credible source on this topic. Let's practice a little bit. Can you label these 5 sentences? Try to identify which mood each one is. Are you ready to see the answers? Check it out. Go to your room. That's a command. The subject is implied. so it's imperative mood. Are you sure about that? Is an interrogative question. If you finish your homework, condition, you can go play. So that's conditional mood. If I were president, but I'm not and I can't be because I'm too young, I would banish all taxes. Now technically this one's super subjunctive because not only am I not the president and I won't become that, but this is super unlikely to ever happen, so it's definitely subjunctive. He wants $1 million. Fact. So it's indicative. So remember, think about commands, questions, only possible under certain conditions, totally unreal or a wish, and fact. For the next practice, think about which verb is most appropriate for each sentence. Pick the one that is most appropriate based on what mood the sentence is supposed to be or is trying to be. Here are the answers. If I were famous, I would still help charities. Go upstairs command and fold the laundry. Are you question going to help me? He is attending his cousin's wedding. Fact. If Cinderella finishes her chores, condition, she might get to go to the ball. Alrighty. If you have any further questions about moods, make sure you either ask someone or check out another resource online.